Ready, let's get all secret activity. Okay, it is 5:30 on August 23rd, 2023. My name is Jim Brewer. I'm the hearings officer of the city of Salem. We have one thing on the agenda tonight. It is a consolidated application for conditional use permit, class 3 site plan review. To establish a new child care center use within existing religious assembly use at 3737 South. I'm going to go through some legal niceties and we'll get to the substantive part of the hearing. Order of tonight's proceedings is going to be a staff report to be presented by Peter Domine. An applicant's presentation that's going to be limited to 15 minutes. A neighborhood report if there is any, and I don't believe that there is one. Then we'll go to public testimony if there is any. That will begin. We'll ask people who testify to give their name and their address. Recording picks it up. We'll start with testimony in favor of the application, limited to 5 minutes per person. Testimony in opposition, limited to 5 minutes per person. Testimony that's neutral, 5 minutes. And we'll have rebuttal by the applicant, assuming that there's anybody who speaks in opposition. And that will be limited to 5 minutes as well. At that point, we normally close the public hearing. I think we're probably going to hold the record open for a particular reason tonight. People who testified tonight may request a continuance to address additional documents or evidence submitted in favor of the application. If you're going to make this request, identify what that document or evidence is during your testimony so I can determine whether a continuance is warranted. Anyone who testifies may also request the record remain open for 7 additional days to submit additional written evidence. I think we'll get into that early in the staff report. I do want to direct your attention to the applicable criteria found in the notice. The testimony and evidence for the public hearing really should be directed towards these criteria because these are the things that I can actually make a decision on. For conditional use, Salem Revised Code Chapter 240.05 sub D states that an application for conditional use permit shall be granted if all the following criteria are met. 1, the proposed use is allowed as a conditional use of the zone. 2, the reasonably likely adverse impacts of the use on the immediate neighborhood can be minimized through the imposition of conditions. And 3, the proposed use will be reasonably compatible with and have minimal impact on the livability of appropriate development of surrounding property. For the site class 3 site plan review, Salem Revised Code Chapter 220.5 sub F sub 3 states that an application for a class 3 site plan review shall be granted if A, the application meets all the applicable standards of the UDC. B, the transportation system provides for the safe, orderly, and efficient circulation of traffic into and out of the proposed development. Negative impacts to the transportation system are mitigated adequately. C, parking areas and driveways are designed to facilitate safe and efficient movement of vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians. And D, the proposed development will be adequately served with city water, sewer, stormwater facilities, and other utilities appropriate to the nature of the development. And Peter will go through those in more detail. So analysis during staff. I'd like to tell people who are going to testify tonight that failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to report the city or parties the opportunity to respond to the issue includes appeal to the State Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. What you want to make this time and place to do it may not be able to later. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city or its designee to respond to the issue includes an action for damages and circuit. So again, if you have a problem with the condition, It's a time to bring it up. It's not going to be recorded. For anybody who is here or is online, are there any objections on jurisdictional hearing? Meaning it's not the sort of thing that's supposed to come before the hearings officer. Not seeing anybody leave to their feet. So this is CUSP R23-06 3737 Liberty Street South. If we have the staff report, please.
I'm Peter Down, Planner 2 with the Planning Division for the City of Salem. I'd like to enter into the record the staff report, all attachments, and this presentation for conditional use permit and site plan review case number 23-06 or 3737 Liberty Road South. I'd like to note the mail notice for the hearing mistakenly provided the incorrect date of August 17th for the hearing instead of today, August 23rd. New notice with the correct date was sent August 16th. And staff would like to request the record be left open for additional testimony following this hearing.
Okay, everything's entered, and we'll go ahead and hold the record open for purpose and addressing the notice. We'll have that discussion. Get to the
The applicant, Vic Shop, on behalf of Westminster Presbyterian Church, is requesting a conditional use permit to establish a child daycare center use within the existing church on the subject property. It is not determined yet, but the daycare will serve no more than 35 children during regular weekday hours. No other new development or additions to the existing buildings or changes to the property is proposed, only the use within the existing church facilities. The property is approximately 5.87 acres in size and within the urban service area with frontage and access off of Liberty Road, including a portion of undeveloped right of way, which leads into the property. There are also driveway accesses from Elton Street to the south and Winona Avenue to the north, shown with little green arrows. Here is an aerial image of the property and the surrounding area. This is the primary driveway access off of Liberty Road South. The driveway access off of Elton Street to the south of the property. And the driveway access off of Winona Avenue to the north of the property. The subject property is zoned RM2, shown in orange. Neighboring properties zoned RS are to the north, south, and west, shown in yellow. Properties zoned MU1 to the north, shown in purple, and other properties zoned RM2 to the north and south, and across Liberty Road to the east. The RM2 zone and neighboring RS zone generally allow a variety of residential uses, including multiple family residential uses, along with a mix of other uses that are compatible with and provide services to the residential area. The neighboring MU1 zone to the north is intended to allow for a mix of pedestrian-oriented development and commercial and residential uses along major streets such as Liberty Road and Drummond Avenue. The property includes the primary church building, which has been in place since 1957 and was expanded to include a 1,400 square foot addition for classroom and office space in 2009, approved under site plan review case number 09-6. Also not shown to the north is an additional parking lot. The proposed daycare center will be located within a 2,600 square foot portion of the building, marked Ed unit on the site plan, and also found in the staff report as attachment B. The site plan review process is intended to ensure that any new development complies with the development standards of the zoning code in general, Standards include maximum building height, lot coverage allowances, setbacks, off-street parking standards, including bicycle parking, landscaping requirements. The site plan review is also required by the Building and Safety Division to establish a new occupancy permit. And the site plan review is primarily to establish the child daycare center use within the existing buildings, and no other development or expansion or alterations to the existing buildings, vehicle use areas, or the property are proposed. The property complies with all site plan review criteria, with the exception of the minimum amount of bicycle parking. There are an existing 112 off-street vehicle parking spaces serving the church in both the main lot and the lot to the north. And the applicant has indicated that there are 6 bicycle parking spaces or 3 staple style racks shown here in this picture. No new vehicle parking is required for the child daycare center use, but additional bicycle parking is required to meet the minimum of 4 spaces. Combined with the bicycle parking requirements for the church, a total of 8 bicycle parking spaces is required, or 4 staple style racks, which can serve 2 bicycles each. To meet the standards, staff recommends the condition for the applicant to install 1 additional staple style bicycle rack to meet the minimum requirement for both the daycare and the church. With the recommended condition of approval, staff finds that the application is in compliance with the approval criteria for the site plan review. The proposed child daycare center use is allowed use in the RM2 zone with a conditional use permit. As found in the staff report, the proposed daycare center will have no adverse impacts on the immediate neighborhood, and the use will be reasonably compatible and have minimal impact on the livability of the surrounding properties. No concerns were raised with other agencies other than the required building permit to establish new occupancy with the Building and Safety Division. Notice of the application and public hearing was provided to the Southwest Association of Neighbors, whose board provided an email in support of the approval of the conditional use permit. And no public comments from surrounding property owners and residents were received during the public comment period. Staff recommends that the hearings officer approves the conditional use permit, site plan review, collective applications, subject to the recommended condition of approval to install 2 additional bicycle parking spaces, such as 1 staple style rack.
Don't really have any questions. Thank you. That was very succinct and I think very thorough given the nature of the application.
You're not sharing. You can turn on your video.
Would the applicant like to move this?
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Kelly Wadsworth, and I serve as the pastor at Westminster Presbyterian Church. We support the report that Peter presented and appreciate the thoroughness of it. And we are looking forward to partnering with the neighborhood and the city in this way that will serve families, hopefully in ways that are much needed. And that concludes our presentation.
I don't have any questions. Again, I think this is a pretty straightforward application and good analysis by staff. What we might do is have you just hang around for a second as we talk about calendar. But I'm gonna run through and see if anybody else suddenly desires to speak. Okay, so as we move to the public part of the presentation, do we have anyone who would like to speak in favor? Not seeing anyone. I don't think we have any neighborhood representatives present. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Not seeing anything, nobody online, I assume. Neutrally? No. You don't get an opportunity to rebut. You don't have. So why don't you come back up, because we do want to talk about calendaring for just a minute, and there's a flavor of this that we can kind of move around a little bit depending on what you want to do. Because of the notice, we're going to hold the record open for an additional 7 days for anyone to respond to. That then leaves us a requirement to leave the record open an additional week in case anybody wants to respond to anything that gets put in during that period. Might not have anything. Then, as the applicant, you get an additional 7 days to submit any kind of additional argument, not new facts, but summary. If we were not worried about meeting our legal notice requirements, what we would be asking you at this point is, do you waive that final argument, which then cuts off when we make a decision faster? I cannot advise you on what you might want to do here. And I don't see any reason that you can't leave your options open if you would like. But what I would say is, if nobody puts anything in during that first week, you might send a note to Peter saying, here's how I feel about final. Because I don't know that we would be required to give people an opportunity to rebut anything if nothing comes in. So I think we've got kind of a couple of dominoes here. The schedule would be, and I'll just ask everybody to open the calendar.
We have the dates for you.
Oh, perfect. That's what I'm looking
So 7 days for additional testimony is August 30th,
for. We do 5 o'clock, right? Okay.
additional 7 days for rebuttal would be September 6th. Then 7 days for the applicant's final rebuttal would be September 13th.
So we would know whether or not we received anything within that 7 day period at 5:01 on the 30th. We can let the applicant know at that point. Okay,
Yes, we would like to do that.
okay. Well, that's what we'll do. So we're gonna hold the record open. I won't make a decision until the record is closed. So thank you, and thank you staff for. This is an important part of our local land use process. It's important to the city. We'll continue giving the public an opportunity, which they don't have to take if they don't want.
Good.
Probably the nature of the application and the quality of the staff report. And with that, we are adjourned.